Welcome back. You're watching Accelerate India Technology for Growth. As we focus on how cloud computing is changing the way manufacturing is done in India, I meet the chairman of Microsoft India, Bhaskar Pramanik, to gauge his thoughts on the issue. Mr. Pramanik, many thanks for joining us on the show, and we are talking about manufacturing today. So let me start by asking you about what you make of the Modi government's vision of Make in India.
No, I think it really is a right move. If you look at manufacturing, it's only less than 15% of the overall GDP, and I think the government's plan is to take it to about 25%. And I think that's really very heartening. If you look at the size of the Indian economy, if you look at the consumption and the demand which you have for any kind of product, whether it's consumer, engineering, or any other kind of products, it's a shame that a lot of it has to be imported. So we've got the demand. We can therefore manufacture to scale. So I think it's the right focus, and I think it's the right timing, because technology can actually play a very, very big role in simplifying everything which is happening from a manufacturing perspective.
Speaking of technology and perhaps the answer to whether we can achieve that 25% number or not, because this has been the stated objective of not just this government but the previous government, and we haven't even come close to being able to achieve that 25% share of manufacturing to GDP target. But in terms of competitiveness, and we know that our land costs are high at this point in time. Of course, land acquisition in itself has become a huge challenge post the Land Acquisition Act being passed by Parliament. So in order for India to be competitive, how will the role of technology help us leverage that?
Yeah, just manufacturing another product, I don't think really makes sense unless you've really got economies of scale and you've got some technical advantages.
Which China's already doing.
China's already doing. So I think the opportunity is to redesign, to reimagine products. If you think about the future, all products are going to be intelligent. I mean, you're going to buy, let's say, a washing machine, and today you wait for it to fail before you actually call somebody and say, look, I need to get it fixed. And you can understand all the challenges you have during the period when it's not working. Now imagine if that washing machine had intelligence built into it. Imagine if it was constantly being monitored by whoever the manufacturer was, and it could actually then predict when it is likely to fail or what is a potential problem and fixes it even before it happens. That's what we call the Internet of Things. Now marry India's software industry with the manufacturing industry, and you have huge opportunity. But we should be looking at manufacturing products or devices which have intelligence built into it, and that's a combined value of that device or the product and the service which gives additional value. And we could perhaps then be the leader of that on a global basis.
Specifically from the SME point of view, because technology would certainly bring in a more level playing field, the barriers of entry would perhaps be lower. The concern really is on the total cost of ownership, the kind of investments that an SME will have to make in order to bring technology on board, in order to keep updating technology. What should we or what can we expect on that front?
I think these new technologies which we've been talking about, cloud or social or mobility or analytics, is going to level the playing field. We have taken a decision, we've announced very recently that Microsoft is going to be setting up data centers through which we will be providing local cloud services. So the advantage to a lot of SMEs is that they will not have to make those investments upfront. So they can actually go for a complete business cloud for productivity, for running their business ERP or CRM online, or even manufacturing automation. And they could run this out of a public data center. And therefore the investments which they would require would be minimal. Number two is that...
So when you say minimal, give me a sense of what it would have cost them and what it would now cost them.
So very clearly, the barrier to entry would have been the capital equipment. So if the capital equipment would have been about 100, now they'll be able to get this at something like about nearly only 20 or 25 to start with. And then they continue to keep paying for it. Most important, as technology becomes updated, they will get the latest benefits of that technology. Number three is that they will get the scale.
What are the niches that you see over the next 3 to 5 years that India can enjoy an advantage in when we talk about manufacturing?
So I think anything to do with consumer electronics, whether it is white goods or whether it is for computing kind of equipment like tablets or phones or any other kind of televisions, I think there's a huge market demand there, and that's again an area where there could be a lot of potential. I think if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, I think if you look at even some of the larger process control, I think there's a huge opportunity. So whether it is for industrial goods or whether it is for consumer, I think there are opportunities across the board. And especially I'll come back to this point which I raised earlier, that in each one of these areas there is many things which you can do using the cloud-based technologies to run your business operations much better, to scale it, to be able to access your customers. But the opportunity to actually build intelligent products and devices, I think, is the most important. So one of the things which we are looking at, for example, or not looking at, we've actually announced, and it's not just in India but globally, is that we've taken our operating system, and for any device which is less than 9 inches, which is a phone, which could be a tablet, or even the Internet of Things, we are making our platform available at no cost.
Okay.
So what we'd like to see and what we would want to encourage is just
people building on that.
Building on top of that.
So that clearly is the area of opportunity that Microsoft is looking at. But, we often talk about what we can do and what we should do. But what do you see as being the big challenges and the big hurdles? Even though the government has said that, this is going to be a priority area, they're going to put their might behind converting this opportunity into reality. But what do you continue to see as being the big stumbling blocks of being able to achieve this reality?
So very clearly, it's the ancillary industries, which is required for the primary product. If you look at automobiles, it's because of the fact that the ancillary industries grew in pace with it. And in fact, it started earlier than the actual assembly of cars.
So nurture the ecosystem and the supply chain.
You need to nurture the ecosystem. You need to nurture the supply chain. That is very critical. The moment you think about electronics, that is the biggest issue. We don't make any of the components. No. We don't make any of the processors. We don't make most of the displays and everything else which is required. So we've got to be smart. We've got to create those infrastructure industries, those ancillary industries.
Well, on that note, it is time for us to wrap up this episode. But do tune in next week when we get a panel of experts to share their thoughts, experiences and views on how the cloud is altering the manufacturing process in India. Meanwhile, you can join the conversation on social media and Twitter with our ID at CNBC TV 18 News, #AccelerateIndia, or on Facebook at facebook.com/CNBC TV 18 India. Or you can also visit our website www.moneycontrol.com/AccelerateIndia. Till next week from the entire team, many thanks for watching.
We're seeing manufacturers also use the cloud to get closer to their customers with new applications and services for building and communicating with customers.
We looked at the capabilities we need to put in place for collaboration across 7 plants and across about 20,000 of our IT users.
If government, any officer in the chain needs more information from the company, can ask for it. It's there on the website. You can access it yourself without visiting their office. And this kind of concept, if it is brought in all kinds of operations of the government, will certainly help the industry in a big way.
The second thing that that will attract high-tech manufacturing here is adoption of technology, which will ensure world-class quality, which will ensure world-class productivity and accuracy, etc.
Focus. Ideate, innovate, enable.